The European Union is grappling with an escalating energy crisis in 2025, fueled by a series of critical developments. One major factor is the unexpected challenges faced by Norway, a key gas supplier to Europe. On January 2, 2025, Ecuador's Hammerfest LNG plant in northern Norway suffered a compressor failure, forcing a complete shutdown expected to last a week. This plant accounts for about 5% of Norway's gas exports, and its temporary closure has placed further strain on Europe's already precarious energy supply. At the same time, Russian gas flows to Europe through Ukraine ceased on January 1, 2025, after the expiration of a key transit agreement. Ukraine decided to terminate the deal due to national security concerns amid the ongoing conflict, ending a decades-long energy arrangement. This disruption caused a spike in European natural gas futures, reaching levels not seen since October 2023. Exacerbating Europe's energy challenges. Additionally, Qatar has issued a warning over its gas exports, threatening to cut supplies to Europe in response to the EU's Corporate Sustainability Due Diligence Directive, which penalizes companies over environmental and labor practices. Should Qatar face fines under this legislation, it could significantly impact LNG availability in Europe, driving up gas prices and impeding the EU's efforts to diversify its energy sources. Further complicating the situation, President-elect Donald Trump has urged the EU to increase its imports of American liquefied natural gas, LNG, threatening potential tariffs on the region if they do not comply. This stance adds a new layer of geopolitical tension, potentially altering the EU's energy procurement strategies and influencing energy prices and trade relations. In recent years, natural gas has been a cornerstone of the EU's energy supply. By 2023, Norway had become the EU's most critical supplier, providing 53.4% of the region's pipeline gas. Algeria also emerged as a key partner, contributing 15.9%, while Russia's share plummeted to just 12.7% in 2023, down from 45% in 2021, due to geopolitical tensions and EU sanctions. The increase in imports from Norway and Algeria has partially compensated for the loss of Russian gas, but highlights the EU's dependence on a limited number of alternative sources to meet energy needs. Liquefied natural gas, LNG, has become an increasingly important part of the EU's energy mix, particularly to replace declining pipeline gas imports. By 2023, the United States had become the EU's dominant LNG supplier, providing 49.4% of the region's imports. Despite sanctions on other Russian energy exports, Russia still accounted for 13.3% of the EU's LNG imports, illustrating the ongoing challenges of fully severing ties with Russian energy. Algeria also supplied 11.1% of LNG, solidifying its role as both a pipeline and LNG supplier. While the growing reliance on LNG enhances the EU's energy security, it comes at a higher cost due to transportation and infrastructure demands compared to traditional pipeline imports. The EU has made significant progress in transitioning to renewable energy sources in order to reduce carbon emissions and mitigate environmental impact. However, challenges persist in fully shifting away from fossil fuels. Renewable sources such as solar and wind are intermittent, only producing electricity when weather conditions are favorable. This variability can cause supply instability, particularly during periods of low wind or sunlight. As a result, the EU still relies on fossil fuels and nuclear energy as backup sources to ensure a reliable energy supply. Moreover, much of the EU's existing energy infrastructure is designed for centralized fossil fuel power plants. Integrating decentralized renewable energy sources requires substantial investments in modernizing and expanding the grid to accommodate the distributed nature of renewable generation. Grid congestion has become a bottleneck in the transition to a greener energy future, with renewable energy developers facing financing challenges due to rising interest rates and supply chain inflation. The shift to renewable energy involves significant upfront costs for infrastructure development, including the construction of renewable energy plants and grid enhancements. While renewable energy can lead to long-term savings, the initial financial burden can be substantial. Additionally, the renewable energy sector has faced financial struggles, with companies like ORAD experiencing challenges due to rising costs and project delays. The EU's push for renewable energy has increased dependence on critical raw materials and clean tech products, often sourced from countries like China. This reliance raises concerns over economic security, especially amid geopolitical tensions and trade disputes. The rapid deployment of renewable energy technologies can lead to social tensions, such as conflicts between renewable energy expansion and nature conservation objectives. Additionally, the agricultural sector has expressed concerns over potential risks to livelihoods during the phasing out of fossil fuel subsidies. Europe faces intensified competition for liquefied natural gas, LNG this year, particularly during the summer months when rising energy demand for air conditioning in Asia places additional pressure on global supplies. Although several new LNG plants are currently under construction, significant capacity increases are not expected for at least 2 more years. For European consumers, this means elevated energy costs will persist. Wholesale gas prices for 2025 are already projected to exceed last year's average rates, adding to financial strain across the region. According to Bloomberg, benchmark Dutch gas futures for February delivery rose as much as 4.3% on the first trading day of 2025, closing 2.8% higher at 50.27 EUR per megawatt hour in Amsterdam. Prices had already breached the 50 EUR mark on December 31st in anticipation of the halt in Russian gas flows via Ukraine. In the background, the European Union in 2025 finds itself amid an unparalleled energy crisis, exacerbated by a confluence of geopolitical and economic pressures. Qatar, a vital provider of liquefied natural gas, LNG, has threatened to halt its exports to the EU due to the bloc's recently introduced Corporate Sustainability Due Diligence Directive. This directive enforces rigorous oversight of supply chains for human rights and environmental violations, with non-compliance penalties reaching up to 5% of global revenue. Qatar's energy minister, Saad Al-Abi, warned that such financial penalties could force Qatar to cease gas exports, citing the unacceptable impact on Qatar's energy and national revenues. Simultaneously, the flow of Russian natural gas through Ukraine ended as of January 1, 2025, following the expiration of a critical transit agreement. This marks the end of a long-standing supply chain vital to Europe's energy stability. While the EU's reliance on this route had already diminished in recent years, the sudden cessation leaves several Central European nations scrambling for alternatives at significantly higher costs. Against this backdrop, U.S. President-elect Donald Trump has introduced additional strain by warning the EU to increase purchases of American LNG or face steep tariffs, creating new layers of economic and diplomatic challenges. These intersecting crises underscore the EU's mounting vulnerabilities in the global energy market, revealing shortcomings in its strategies for achieving energy security and diversification. With depleting reserves, escalating energy costs, and heightened tensions with key suppliers, Europe must navigate an increasingly complex web of economic stability, geopolitical alliances, and sustainability goals. Norway gas to EU European natural gas prices surged on the first trading day of 2025 as the region faced multiple supply challenges coinciding with freezing temperatures. The disruption of a major supply route and an unplanned outage in Norway compounded concerns over energy security. Benchmark gas prices closed at their highest level since October 2023 on Thursday. The halt in Russian gas deliveries via Ukraine, following the expiration of a decades-old transit contract on New Year's Day, left no immediate alternative route in place. This development marked a significant shift in European energy dynamics, as Russian flows were a key supply source for several Central European nations. Adding to the strain, Norway's Hammerfest LNG plant halted operations due to a compressor failure. The outage, which is expected to last until January 9th, was confirmed by network operator Gasco. The plant's operator, Equinor ASA, has not yet provided additional details. Ship tracking data from Bloomberg indicates that a vessel is scheduled to arrive at Hammerfest later this week, while another recently departed for Lithuania. Let's take a quick moment. If you're enjoying the video so far, we'd really appreciate it if you could hit the like button. Want to be even more helpful? Leave us a comment. It helps us reach a wider audience and improves our content. Thank you for your support. Now, let's dive back into the discussion. Rising pressures. While the cessation of Russian gas via Ukraine had been anticipated, the unplanned disruption in Norway has tightened supplies further. These events could accelerate withdrawals from Europe's gas storage sites, which are already being depleted at the fastest rate since the onset of the 2021 energy crisis. Storage facilities, which serve as a critical buffer during the winter, are now under increased strain, as colder temperatures drive up heating demand. In Slovakia, one of the countries most affected by the loss of Russian gas, temperatures are forecast to drop as low as 7 degrees, 19 to 19 by mid-January. The harsh weather conditions will likely exacerbate demand for heating fuels across the region. Increased dependence on LNG. Europe's reliance on LNG imports is deepening as it seeks to offset the loss of Russian supplies. However, unplanned outages at LNG export plants globally, such as the Hammerfest disruption, could lead to heightened price volatility. Despite these challenges, the European Commission has stated that there is no immediate threat to energy security in Central and Eastern Europe, thanks to efficient preparatory work and coordination in the region and beyond. There are no security of supply concerns, the Commission said, noting that alternative routes through Germany and Italy, along with withdrawals from storage, are helping to stabilize the situation. While Europe is not expected to run out of gas this winter due to existing reserves and diversified supply sources, concerns are rising about the ability to replenish storage for the next heating season. Gas prices for summer 2025 have now surpassed those for winter 2025-2026, signaling higher costs for restocking. This has intensified tensions with Qatar, which has issued an ultimatum to the European Union, EU, in response to the EU's Corporate Sustainability Due Diligence Directive. This regulation imposes stringent requirements on corporations to monitor and address human rights and environmental violations in their supply chains. Non-compliance could result in hefty financial penalties, up to 5% of a company's global revenue. Qatar's energy minister, Saad Al-Kaabi, has warned that these penalties could severely impact Qatar's energy sector, even threatening to halt LNG exports to the EU. Europe's dependence on Qatari gas has increased in recent years due to the significant reduction in Russian gas imports. Qatar has also committed to expanding its LNG export capacity by 2027, aiming to become a more crucial energy partner for Europe. However, any disruption in Qatari gas supplies could deepen Europe's energy challenges, especially as gas reserves are depleting rapidly. The EU's directive is part of its broader plan to achieve net zero emissions by 2050, but it has faced criticism for imposing heavy compliance burdens and for its potential to trigger unintended economic consequences. While the European Commission has expressed openness to potential adjustments, this situation highlights the delicate balance between sustainability ambitions and the need for energy security. The expiration of the Russia-Ukraine gas transit agreement on January 1, 2025, has further complicated Europe's energy crisis. Historically, this route provided 5% of Europe's natural gas, and its sudden termination is expected to worsen supply shortages, particularly for Central European nations heavily reliant on these flows. Efforts to renegotiate the agreement have stalled, and geopolitical tensions and legal disputes have complicated the process. In the absence of Ukrainian transit, European countries are increasingly turning to costly alternatives like liquefied natural gas, LNG. But these options bring logistical and pricing challenges, driving energy costs higher and straining already tight reserves. Slovakia and Hungary have voiced concerns over the economic consequences, warning of steep increases in energy prices for both consumers and industries. Despite EU sanctions targeting Russian energy exports, Russia has managed to redirect its oil and gas trade to new markets, particularly in Asia. By 2023, China and India accounted for 78% of Russia's crude oil exports, up from 32% in 2021. This shift has not only mitigated the financial impact of EU sanctions, but also strengthened Russia's geopolitical ties with BRICS nations. Additionally, countries like India have become major suppliers of refined fuels to Europe, filling some of the gaps left by reduced Russian exports. In 2024, Saudi Arabia became a key importer of Russian oil due to heightened domestic energy demands during an unusually hot summer. This shift emphasizes the growing interdependence among major oil-producing nations and its impact on global energy markets. Saudi Arabia's strategy of importing Russian oil to meet domestic needs while continuing to export its own crude oil has introduced new dynamics to the global supply-demand balance. Meanwhile, U.S. President-elect Donald Trump's directive for the EU to increase its purchases of American LNG, or face trade tariffs, adds another layer of pressure on Europe. The U.S. has become a significant LNG supplier to the EU, accounting for nearly half of its LNG imports in 2024. Trump's ultimatum is part of a broader strategy to address trade imbalances, but it risks triggering a trade dispute that could further destabilize the energy market. The EU's reliance on U.S. energy imports underscores the need for diversified supply chains, but Trump's aggressive stance may complicate existing trade relationships. Broader implications for the EU-Europe's energy crisis is putting immense pressure on the EU's economic and political stability. Soaring energy prices are expected to increase household utility bills and operational costs for industries, leading to inflationary pressures and potential social unrest. The EU's ambitious sustainability goals now stand in tension with immediate energy security concerns, requiring careful negotiation with key suppliers and increased investment in alternative energy solutions. This crisis also highlights the fragility of Europe's energy infrastructure and the urgent need for strategic planning and diversification. As geopolitical dynamics evolve, the EU faces difficult decisions that will shape its energy landscape and economic future. With Trump's unpredictable policies looming, the path forward remains uncertain, demanding pragmatic and collaborative solutions. Conclusion: a perfect storm of energy challenges. As the year begins, Europe finds itself facing a perfect storm of energy challenges. Bitterly cold weather across the continent has sharply increased heating demand, while insufficient wind levels have hampered renewable energy generation. These factors, combined with supply disruptions, ranging from the end of Russian gas flows via Ukraine to unplanned outages in Norway, have severely strained energy supplies, pushing prices higher. Analysts warn that energy costs will rise significantly across the EU, putting additional strain on consumers. The EU faces tough choices in addressing its energy shortfall. Will it reconsider its stringent regulations to maintain ties with Qatar, a key LNG supplier? Could it ease tensions with Russia to restore some level of gas imports? Both scenarios carry substantial political and economic risks. Furthermore, the incoming Trump administration in the US may increase pressure on the EU to prioritize American fossil fuel imports, potentially triggering tariffs and further destabilizing the EU's economic resilience. How EU leaders navigate these overlapping crises will be critical. Balancing energy security, geopolitical relationships, and consumer protection will require strategic and unified decision-making. Only time will tell which direction the EU will take to stabilize its energy markets in the coming months. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell to stay updated on our latest content. We've also recommended some videos you might find interesting. Be sure to check them out. See you in our next video.